Okay, so today the outline of the chapter will be nature. We are going to learn what is the nature of working capital, planning of working capital, need for working capital, and operating cycle. The last and the factors influencing requirement of working capital or determinants of working capital. So this much part will be covered in today's session. So first let us learn in simple what is working capital. Okay. So it is the capital required to use in day-to-day trading operations, okay, which is calculated by way of deducting current assets from current liabilities. So I repeat again, it is the capital of a business which is used in its day-to-day trading operations, calculated as current assets minus current liabilities. So some simple examples of current assets include debtors, inventory, okay, cash in hand, cash at bank if you remember, and current liabilities include, okay, payment of wages, factory rent, okay, payment to creditors. So whatever the difference, okay, amount, whatever is the difference, the company has to arrange for that amount of money, which is called as working capital. So try to understand. Say a company may purchase the raw materials from a supplier on credit basis. Okay. So let's say the credit period is for 10 days. So on 10th day, the payment will be due. So company should have enough money to pay to the supplier. Otherwise, he will stop supplying raw materials. Similarly, every month, the company is required to pay salary and wages to the employees. So the company should have enough money to pay for these salaries. So this way, working capital is required to conduct the day-to-day operations smoothly. Then second part, what is working capital management? Working capital is concerned with the problems that arise in managing the current assets and current liabilities and the interrelationships between them. So I'll give an example of what exactly is working capital management. Say a company makes goods and sells to customers on credit basis. Customers may be wholesalers, organized retail chains, or other businesses. Okay, and there will be a credit period. So let us say 20 days. So the company will sell goods on credit basis to its customers, and the customers will make payment after on 20th day. So the credit period will be for 20 days. And the same company may be also buying raw materials from its suppliers. And if supplier is also selling the raw materials to the company on credit basis, and in our example, let us say the supplier's credit period or creditors, okay, period is 10 days. So it means that company cannot wait till the customer pays. Customers will pay on 20th day, but the creditor's payment or supplier's payment will become due on 10th day. So on 10th day, company should have enough money to make payment to the suppliers so that the supply of raw materials continue to smoothly come in. So what a manager can do here is, the manager can bargain for a smaller credit period with the customers and a longer credit period with the suppliers. So this is how current assets and this is how managing the interrelationship between current assets and current liabilities is referred to as working capital management. Okay, so I hope the concept is clear now. So once again I repeat, and those for who are struggling to understand, simple, working capital is the amount required to run the day-to-day operations. And it is determined by the simple formula current assets minus current liabilities. So I hope so far things are clear. It is very important before we understand other aspects of working capital. And now we'll move on to the concepts and definitions of working capital. There are three concepts of working capital: gross working capital, net working capital, and zero working capital. So in next slide, we are going to learn about gross working capital. Okay. Gross working capital is current assets which represent the proportion of investment that circulates from one firm to another in the ordinary conduct of business. So gross working capital is nothing but the amount required to invest in the current assets that move within the company in one firm to another firm. For example, raw material is converted into finished goods. So this is called the current assets moving from one firm to another firm in the ordinary conduct of business. So whatever current assets the company has, for example, inventory, debtors, okay, so they would require funds to invest in these current assets. So this is called as gross working capital. The concept of gross working capital will be more clear when we understand what is net working capital. Okay. So in gross working capital, we do not consider current liabilities. But whereas in net working capital, okay, is nothing but the difference between current assets and current liabilities. So if one takes out the difference between current assets and current liabilities, or current assets minus current liabilities, whatever amount you get is called working capital required for the company. The company has to arrange that much of funds to invest in current assets. So net working capital, the term net working capital can be defined in two ways. So one way is net working capital, determining it by the difference between current assets and current liabilities. Okay. And the task of the financial manager in managing working capital efficiently is to ensure sufficient liquidity in the operations of the firm. Okay. So liquidity here is availability of cash into the business to make the short-term payments or short-term obligations. The liquidity of a business firm is measured by its ability to satisfy short-term obligations as they become due. See, for the long-term survival, for the long-term growth, present survival is mandatory for any company. I repeat, for the long-term growth or for the long-term survival, present survival is important for a company. Therefore, liquidity becomes an absolutely important measure for the present survival of any company. If a company cannot make payment, okay, to suppliers of raw materials, if a company cannot make payment of salary and wages to its employees, so I hope you can understand that company will not sustain. It will get to cease, or it will get closed down in the present itself. And with respect to liquidity, there are three basic measures of a firm's overall liquidity. So when investors are planning to invest in a company, okay, they don't only look at the future of the company, but also they're worried about the present liquidity position of the firm, whether the company will survive in the present or not. So there are three basic measures of a firm's overall liquidity. They include current ratio, acid test ratio, and net working capital. So I'll explain in brief what is a current ratio. It is nothing but a measure of a company's liquidity. Liquidity is nothing but the ability of a company to satisfy short-term obligations as they become due. Some short-term obligation examples I gave: payment to suppliers for the purchase of raw materials, payment of salaries and wages to employees. So current ratio can be determined by dividing the current assets by current liabilities. So the formula for current ratio is current assets divided by current liabilities. So once we determine current ratio of a firm, so how we are going to understand whether the current ratio is good enough or not? So this is done by comparing the industry average. There is something called an industry average current ratio. So one company's current ratio will be compared with the industry average current ratio. So what is suggested is the company should have at least the average ratio of the industry or slightly more than average ratio of the industry. It is considered as good. The liquidity of the firm is considered as good. The second measure of the liquidity of a firm are asset test ratio. Okay, so here from the current, only those current assets which are in cash or which can be quickly converted into cash are taken into consideration. and the inventory is not included in current assets. So the formula will be current assets minus inventory. Current assets minus inventory divided by current liabilities. So it is a more stringent test for a company's liquidity position. So both the measures are considered by investors while evaluating liquidity position of a company. And the third is net working capital. As we know, it is the difference between current assets and current liabilities. So these are the three basic measures by which outsiders can find out, or even a company can find out what is its liquidity position. So company's liquidity position should be good so that it can invest in current assets and survive in the present. Okay, next, the net working capital explanation continues. Net working capital is commonly considered as the difference between current assets and current liability. That much we know now. So efficient working capital management requires that firm should operate with some amount of net working capital. The exact amount varying from firm to firm depending upon other things, the nature of the industry. Okay, so a company should have at least the net working capital amount required to meet the obligations of net working capital. So current assets minus current liabilities, whatever the difference is considered as the working capital, the amount required to invest in working capital. A company should have at least that much amount to maintain its liquidity. The net working capital is necessary due to non-synchronous nature of expected cash inflows and required cash outflows. The cash inflows and cash outflows are, though estimated, are not always same. Always there will be a difference. So whatever the difference amount, that is nothing but working capital, and the company is required to maintain that difference amount. And the more predictable cash inflows are, the lesser will be the net working capital required, and vice versa. If a company's cash inflow estimation is more accurate, if the accuracy of the cash flow estimation is very high, so in that case, a company may require a minimum or lower level of working capital. But if the cash flow estimations or predictions are not very accurate, if there are going to be any errors, okay, the company should maintain higher amount of working capital so that the business operations can be conducted smoothly on a day-to-day basis. And so after the first two, as you remember, so now we learned about gross, what is gross working capital, what is net working capital. Now we're moving on to the concept of zero working capital. So I hope you are with me. Okay. First, let me clear, zero working capital does not mean zero working capital required. Okay. So it basically deals with reducing the working capital required in day-to-day business. I repeat, zero working capital does not mean zero amount of working capital. Okay. There will be some amount of working capital, but this concept works upon reducing the amount of working capital required. So the zero working capital concept of net working capital differs from the commonly used concept of working capital, which is current assets minus current liabilities. So the formula for zero working capital is inventories plus receivables minus payables. Receivables here are debtors to whom customers to whom the company has sold on credit basis. Payables are creditors, suppliers of raw materials from whom the company has purchased on credit basis. The rationale is that the inventories and the receivables are major constituents of current assets which affect sales. That is quite obvious. Further, suppliers finance inventories through account payables. Further, suppliers finance inventories through account payables. Permanent reduction in working capital funds results in less financial costs. Permanent reduction in working capital funds results in less financial cost. So in next part, we are going to learn how this concept stresses upon having a lower level of working capital. Okay, one advantage of having lower level of working capital is saving in capital costs or cost of capital. The zero working capital concept forces the corporates to produce and deliver faster. So if a company can convert the raw materials into finished goods quickly, okay, and convert the finished goods into receivables, and that is debtors, and if they can convert the debtors into cash quickly, okay, the need for working capital will be very low. This concept we learn again when we learn about operating cycle. So this in turn may help to gain new business. Okay. Say for example, if a company can make more goods in the same time, they can sell it and obtain additional sales. That is what it means. With low inventories, storage cost as well as loss due to obsolete inventories are also minimized, leading to another set of savings in operating cost. So as I said, the concept of zero working capital, okay, basically focuses upon reducing the requirement for working capital amount. How we are learning that. And in reality, however, it may not be possible for most firms to operate with zero working capital. I have already told it. Yet the concept is important as it focuses that the firm should strive for carrying minimum safety stock of inventories, pursuing good credit collection policies leading to minimum investment in debtors, and bargaining for maximum credit payment period from suppliers. So pay attention please. So what exactly is the concept of zero working capital? The concept of zero working capital focuses on carrying minimum safety stock of inventory. So maintaining a minimum level of inventory so that the amount required to invest in inventory will also come down. Then pursuing good credit collection policies. So if the credit period for customers is low, okay, the debtors or receivables can be quickly converted into cash. Again, it reduces the need for investment in debtors, further reducing the requirement for working capital. And it also focuses on bargaining for maximum credit payment period from suppliers of raw materials. So in these ways, the concept of zero working capital stresses upon, okay, maintaining lower level of inventory and reducing the need for working capital. So these all measures would result in financial and production economies leading to higher return on investment. That is the concept of zero working capital. Okay. Okay. So I have unmuted you all. So if you have any questions at this stage, please ask. Please one student speak at a time. Please one student speak at a time. And speak out loudly.
You told that credit like period will be 20 days, no, sir? Hello?
Speak loud, Sharan.
Wait, let sir put earphone.
काय भावा
Sir, class
No personal talks, Ashutosh.
Yes.
Oh.
See, one instruction to students which I forgot to put in WhatsApp
group.
This live class is recorded and I upload the same into YouTube and it is available for public. Anybody can view the video. So all the students, please remember this. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, then I'll move on to the next part of the topic. Planning for...
Sir, I have one doubt, sir.
Yes, please ask.
Sir, you told about that credit period, no, sir? Like for a company, it should be 20 days.
For example, it is. For example.
Sir, like is that for every company? It will be 20 days only, or it will be differ from company to company, sir?
No. Okay. The credit period differs from industry to industry. Okay.
Sir, and like whether it is good or bad to have more liquidity for a company, sir.
Okay, see, I will tell one. First question is whether the credit period is always 20 days. No, as I said, from industry to industry, the credit period differs. For example, when I was working in pharmaceutical industry, okay, the credit period for wholesalers was 20 days. Okay, so that is the first part. The second part of your question was?
Sir, like whether it is good or bad to have a huge amount of liquidity for a company.
Yes. Okay, so this is the good question. The liquidity, if you remember, current ratio. Okay, once it is calculated, current assets divided by current liabilities.
Current liabilities.
Yeah, and that ratio of the company should be compared with the industry average. If you remember, I told. Okay,
Yes, sir.
and the ideal ratio will be, it should be equal to the industry average or slightly higher than. I said the word slightly higher than industry average. It is considered as a good liquidity position. But if the ratio is quite high, okay, but sufficiently high other than industry average, it is not considered as good. Why?
Okay, sir.
Why? Because the company has unnecessarily maintained excess money. Okay, the company has unnecessarily maintained excess money, okay, for the purpose of working capital, which will not earn anything on, which will not earn anything. That's why
Yes, sir.
the liquidity position should be ideal, optimal, so that the excess money can be invested in other investment projects where the company can earn returns. Okay. Yes. Good question. Okay. Last call. Any other questions?
No,
No.
sir.
Okay. Okay. Good. Then I'll go
Sir.
ahead and yes, Sutosh.
Akshay has a question, sir.
Akshay. Okay. Please ask Akshay. Akshay, I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you. Okay, Akshay, you can write the question and keep it. When I give a next chance to ask questions, you can ask during that. There is no problem. Okay. Still, you are not audible. Okay, I repeat, Akshay, please write your question in a piece of paper and you ask me when next time I pause for the questions. Okay, now I'll continue with next part of the discussion, which is the planning of working capital.
Plan of working capital.
Okay.
चाहता है तुझे.
Okay, so we are moving on to the next part, planning of working capital. Okay, so we also deal with the need for working capital in this part. So what we can understand is the need for working capital arises from the cash cycle or operating cycle of a firm. I repeat, the need for working capital arises from the cash cycle or operating cycle of a firm. So what is the operating cycle? I'll refer the word operating cycle. So what is the operating cycle? So as you can see, converting cash into inventory, that is using cash to purchase raw materials, okay, and manufacturing the products, phase 1, and converting inventory into receivables, that is done by selling the finished goods to the customers on a credit basis. So in that case, customers become receivables or debtors. Then in phase 3, converting the receivables into cash, that is collecting the pending amount from the customers. So operating cycle has these 3 phases. So I repeat, converting cash into inventory in phase 1, converting inventory into receivables in phase 2, and converting receivables into cash. So this cycle, and it continues. So once the company collects cash from the receivables or customers to whom it has sold on credit basis, this cash is again used to purchase the new raw material, and the new raw material is converted into inventory or finished goods again, and the new finished goods are again sold to the customers, and payment is collected from the customers. So this way this cycle continues. So the operating cycle creates the need for working capital, and its length in terms of time span required to complete the cycle is a major determinant of the firm's working capital needs. So I repeat. So in order to complete one cycle, converting cash into inventory, inventory into receivables, and receivables into cash, okay, it is called as operating cycle, and it takes certain time. And the time span of the operating cycle is measured in terms of number of days. I repeat, the time span of the operating cycle of a firm is measured in terms of number of days. Okay, so longer the operating cycle of a company, larger will be the requirement for working capital, and shorter the duration of the operating cycle of a company, lesser will be the requirement for working capital. So in this way, the operating cycle is one of the major determinant of the working capital needs of a company. Okay. Then one more concept is working capital can be permanent and temporary. So I'll explain what is permanent working capital. Permanent working capital is a certain minimum level of working capital on a continuous and uninterrupted basis. So through experience, a company will know how much working capital on an average will be required for a company throughout the year. So that a minimum amount of working capital is maintained by the company. So which is called as permanent working capital. Okay. So which you can see here. So this is a permanent working capital. Okay. Other than permanent working capital, the company will also require temporary working capital. Temporary working capital is the working capital needed to meet seasonal as well as unforeseen requirements. Say for example, if we consider a soft drink company like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, okay, through its experience, they will know on an average how much working capital will be required for them. Other than that, during seasons, say for example in summer, where the demand will be highest, the company will require more working capital to purchase additional raw materials. So in such a case, they maintain temporary working capital. Or for example, considering the current situation of the outbreak of COVID-19, suddenly the demand for sanitizers and masks went up. So this is called unforeseen requirements. So the companies that are manufacturing sanitizers and masks, okay, they need to arrange for additional raw material. So for which they will require temporary working capital. So this way a company manages its working capital. The basic distinction between permanent and temporary working capital is illustrated in the next figures. So both kinds of working capital are necessary to facilitate the sales process through the operating cycle, and temporary working capital is created to meet liquidity requirements that are of a purely varying in nature or which change. So if you can see this figure 2, so this is the permanent working capital. So average, minimum average working capital required, which remains same during a given period of time, 1 year. And this is the temporary working capital. Okay, so during the season, for example, as I said, okay, during winter, let us say the demand for soft drinks will be lower. The temporary working capital requirement will be very minimal. But after winter, when the summer comes up, okay, so the demand increases and the need for temporary working capital also increases. After summer, again, there will be monsoon or rainy season, the demand decreases and the demand for need for temporary working capital also decreases. So this is how they work. And this figure shows the requirement permanent and temporary working capital over a period of time, like after 5 year, 10 year, 15 year. So in due course of time, the level of permanent working capital also may go on increasing. This may be basically due to the increase in prices of the raw materials, or the company might have expanded its production capacity, so they need more working capital, so they increase the level of permanent working capital as well. Okay, so now I'll pause here again. So before I go ahead with the determinants of working capital or factors that have influence on working capital determination. So I'll take your questions, then I'll move forward to determinants of working capital. Okay, any questions at this stage? Any questions?
Sir, please show that graph, no, sir, which you showed.
1 minute. Yes.
Sir, that the graph which you showed right now, no, sir.
Okay.
Please show that.
Yes.
Sir, in this first one, sir, like amount of working capital required.
Yeah.
Sir, like, as you told, when the demand increases, like all of us, sir, if a demand like that's as you told, Coca-Cola company and all the soft drink companies, like they know in summer season that they required a extra amount of working capital.
Correct.
So they have some backup plans already for like those things.
Correct. That they arrange. Definitely they arrange.
Sir, but what if, as you told, like now because of this virus, hand sanitaries demand has been increased.
See, there are two reasons. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So if you look here, temporary working capital is the working capital needed to meet seasonal. So the example of soft drinks is seasonal example, as well as unforeseen requirements. That surge in demand for sanitizers and masks is an unforeseen requirement.
Yes.
Okay, I think that is clear, Sharan.
Yes, yes, sir.
Akshay had a question. Still, I cannot hear him. Okay, I cannot hear Akshay again.
Sir, he has mute his call, sir.
Okay, then somebody. Okay, it's okay. So you send a text message to him in WhatsApp. Okay, and ask him to keep the question.
Mr. Akshay.
Akshay Pujari, do you have a question?
No, sir, I don't have any questions. Sir. I didn't ask. Sir, I don't have any questions.
Okay, it's okay. Then I'll move on to the next part, that is the determinants of working capital. I'm going to unmute you all again. Sorry, mute you all. Okay, so now after understanding what is working capital, nature of working capital, okay, then types of working capital, concepts of working capital. Okay, so now we're going to understand. So while determining the working capital requirement, okay, so next we are going to learn while determining the working capital requirement means how much money is required to manage, invest in current assets for a period of 1 year. So there are certain factors that are taken into consideration because these factors have directly or indirectly an influence on the working capital requirement of a firm. Okay, so these factors, however, affect different enterprises differently. Now, there are certain internal matters also, okay, matter while determining working capital. But in general, the factors relevant to proper assessment of the quantum of working capital or amount of working capital are as below. So one by one, we are going to learn them. Okay. So the first factor or the first determinant of working capital is general nature of business. Okay. So general nature of business. So when it comes to nature of business, the enterprises or companies can be broadly classified into two categories. That is, one category is public utility services. One example is public utility services, which have certain features. Okay, and these features have a bearing on their working capital requirements. Okay, so first let me give example of public utility services. Say for example, a train. Okay, so when we travel by train, okay, then aeroplane, domestic or international. Okay, so a passenger air services, then bus transportation for passengers. Okay, these are some simple examples of public utility services that are provided by government as well as private players. Okay, and there are two relevant features of public utility companies. That is, first, the cash nature of the business. The business is carried on cash basis. For example, I hope you remember, you cannot travel in a bus on a credit basis. You cannot travel in a train on a credit basis. We purchase a ticket first and then we travel. So the business is purely cash in nature. And second is sale of services rather than commodities. So when I travel by bus, aeroplane or train, so what I am purchasing is service. What is being sold is service. It is not goods. Okay. So in view of these features, these public utility companies do not maintain, okay, inventories and have therefore probably require lesser amount of working capital. So if there is a goods manufacturing company, they have to purchase raw material. Finished goods are also kept in inventory. So huge investment is required in raw materials. So in case of a public utility company, since they sell service and the nature of business is in cash, they will require lesser working capital as compared to those companies which manufacture and sell goods. Then the second category, at the other extreme, are trading and financial enterprises. The nature of their business is such that they have to maintain a sufficient amount of cash, inventories, and book debts. Book debts are nothing but debtors. Okay, when the goods are sold on credit basis, credit debtors arise or book debts arise. So for these companies, they have to necessarily invest proportionately large amounts in working capital to finance inventories and debtors. Okay, And financial enterprises include like a bank, for example, okay, which deal in cash. They also are required to maintain sufficient cash in hand, okay, which is nothing but okay, cash in their respective branches to deal with the customers. So this way, the general nature of the business, whether service providers or goods manufacturers, okay, will have an impact on the working capital requirement. Then second determinant or second factor which has influence on working capital requirement is the production cycle. Okay, so first let's understand what is production cycle. The term production cycle or manufacturing cycle refers to the time involved in converting raw materials into finished goods. So it is very simple. If the time required to convert raw materials into finished goods is longer enough, the need for working capital will be very high. Inversely or opposite, if the time required in converting raw materials into finished goods is low, the requirement for working capital will be very low. So one example what I can give is Boeing and Airbus, the world's two largest okay, aircraft manufacturers. Okay, the time required to convert raw material into finished goods. In this example, finished goods are aeroplanes, passenger as well as the cargo aeroplanes. The time required to convert raw materials into finished goods in case of Airbus and Boeing is quite large. So Airbus and Boeing will require large amount of working capital. Okay, so definitely for a company where the production cycle is longer, funds have to be necessarily tied up during the process of manufacture, necessitating enhanced working capital. It is very easy to understand. Then third factor is a business cycle. Okay, so when we say business cycle, please try to understand we are talking about boom and a recession. Okay, so I repeat, when we say business cycle, we are talking about the economic conditions, boom and recession. Business fluctuations lead to cyclical and seasonal changes, which in turn cause a shift in working capital position, particularly for temporary working capital, which we learned in the concept of permanent and temporary working capital. The variation in business conditions may be in two directions. So the first one is upward phase when boom conditions prevail. Boom condition is characterized by a large demand for goods and services. Okay, and the sales will be quite higher. And the downswing phase, okay, is a recession when the economic activity is marked by a decline. So at present, okay, so Indian economy and sufficiently to a greater extent, fair extent, global economy is in downswing. That we can understand. So it is very easy to understand that during the boom condition when the demand is very high, okay, the need for working capital is likely to grow. As the demand will be higher, the company will be required to purchase additional raw materials to meet the additional demand, and to buy additional raw materials, the need for working capital also increases. So additional funds may be required. So if the demand increase in the demand is going to be a permanent one, in that case, additional funds may also be required to invest in plant and machinery to meet the increased demand. Some companies, okay, invest in production capacity enhancement. Okay, they increase the production capacity of the firm. For that purpose also additional funds may be required. And during the recession, where the demand will be very low, or the downswing phase of the business, that since the demand will be low, manufacturing will be low, so purchase of raw material will also be low. That's why the need for working capital also will be lower, which is happening right now in the economy. Okay, so I hope this determinant is also easy to understand. Now I'll move on to the fourth factor and I'll pause again to take your questions. The fourth factor which has influence on the requirement of working capital of a company is a production policy. The quantum of working capital is also determined by the production policy. In case of certain lines of business, the demand for products is seasonal. That is, they are purchased during certain months of the year. So a good example here can be, so for one of the batches, we went for a industrial visit to a sugar factory in the month of March. Okay, and where they mentioned that sugarcane crushing was stopped because of non-availability of the sugarcane. So they said only for 6 to 8 months, 6 months. Okay, so they get sugarcane. During that period, they crush the sugarcane and manufacture sugar. So during those 6 to 8 months, the requirement for working capital will be very high because the availability of sugarcane is seasonal. And during remaining months, the company said they manufacture the byproduct molasses or the spirit, which is purchased by liquor manufacturers. So that is the production policy and how it influences the requirement of working capital. Okay, so please pay attention. I'm going to unmute you all. So last 2 times when I did it, there was a lot of noise. So please ensure before I unmute that there is silence in your room. Okay, and only those students who have a question speak. Other students kindly maintain silence. Yes, any questions? So I'll just take a recap of what we learned. Okay, the determinants of working capital are factors having influence on amount of working capital required. The first one is general nature of business, broadly classified into public utility service companies and companies that manufacture goods or that are into financial field. Then production cycle, then business cycle, basically related to economic conditions, boom and recession, and production policy. So any queries? Okay, so the class is silent. I think there are no questions. Next, I'll go ahead with the remaining determinants. One more last call. Any questions? Okay, so it's good. The first 4 points were easy to understand. So now let's get ahead with the remaining factors that have influence on working capital requirement of a firm. So the fifth determinant or factor is a credit policy. Okay. So the credit policy influences the requirement of working capital in 2 ways. The first one, when the company sells finished goods to its customers on credit basis. And second thing, when the same company purchases raw materials from its suppliers on credit basis. So how working capital is affected in these 2 cases on the basis of credit policy, we are going to learn. The credit terms granted to customers. So if the company sells the finished goods to its customers, okay, on credit basis, so they'll have bearing on the magnitude of working capital by determining the level of book debts. Okay, the credit sales result in higher book debts receivables. Higher book debt means more working capital. Okay, so it means if a company is into habit of selling both on cash basis as well as a credit basis, let us assume that the company sells 20% of it, 20% of its finished goods on cash basis and 80% of its finished goods on a credit basis. So we can understand here that a larger proportion of the finished goods are sold on credit basis. Hence, the credit sales are higher. The debtors or book debts also will be higher. So until your customers pay you back, you will require working capital to conduct your operations smoothly on a day-to-day basis. So higher the credit sales, higher will be the debtors or book debts, and higher the book debts, it means you need more working capital. So that is first way. Now second way, second way, on the other hand, if the liberal credit terms are available from the suppliers of goods, that is the raw materials, the need for working capital is less. Okay. So if the company can bargain for a longer credit period with the suppliers of raw materials, the working capital required will be less. So this way the working capital requirements of a business are affected by the terms of purchase and sale both. Okay. So that is how credit policy influences the amount of working capital required in both the ways, when the company sells goods on credit basis, as well as when the same company purchases raw materials on credit basis. The sixth determinant is the growth and expansion. It is very easy to understand. As and when a company grows and it expands its business operations or manufacturing capacity, definitely it will require more amount of working capital than previous. So there is nothing much to discuss here. It's a simple thing. Then seventh factor is vagaries in the availability of raw material. So vagary, when I say it is the unpredictability. Vagary means unpredictability or inconsistent availability of raw material. So in cases where the raw materials are not regularly available, or the availability of a raw material is unpredictable, the company should purchase excess inventory of raw materials and keep it as a safety stock to sustain smooth production. So in such cases, the firm would require a high level of working capital. Okay. So for example, as a reading article that cobalt, was one of the material which was not available regularly to the manufacturers. So the manufacturer who would buy cobalt, so would buy it in advance and keep excess inventory of cobalt for the purpose of smooth production. Cobalt has applications in a large variety of consumer as well as industrial goods. Then next determinant is a profit level. So here we're talking about cash profit. So first there is a instruction, a suggestion that the cash profit should not be viewed as a source of financing working capital. This part has to be understood by the finance manager. Why? Because the actual availability of cash profit or such funds would depend upon the firm's requirement for payment of dividend on equity shares, preference shares, payment of loan installment, as well as payment of interest on debentures, creation of sinking fund for the purpose of purchase of new machinery and purchase of fixed assets and so on. So the cash profit is primarily used for these purposes. That is the reason why a company should not basically use cash profit for working capital purpose. But after making all these payments, after considering all this, if there is enough cash profit left, after considering all these payments, if enough cash profit still left, that amount can be used for the purpose of working capital. So after explaining this, now I'll go ahead and explain how profit level affects the working capital requirement. So in case these requirement means payment of dividend, payment of loan installment, creation of sinking fund, etc. If these requirements are substantial, cash profit not likely to be available to meet the needs of a firm. So in that case, the firm has to arrange for working capital from other sources. Alternatively, only adjusted cash profits after provisioning for these requirements should be reckoned for working capital financing. So after meeting these obligations, if sufficient cash profit remains, only in that case the company should make use of cash profit for the purpose of working capital financing. And level of taxes also affect the working capital required by a company. The first appropriation out of the profits. So we were talking about for what purposes primarily the profit should be used by a company. So one more important purpose for which profits should be used is the payment of taxes or keeping the provision for taxes. The amount of taxes to be paid is determined by the prevailing tax regulations in the country, and the management has no discretion in this respect. So obviously, and tax liability in a sense is a short-term liability, okay, payable by cash. So hence the company should maintain sufficient cash to pay the tax. So an adequate provision. So in that case, if a company makes adequate provision for tax payments out of cash profit, okay, so lesser amount will be available for the company to finance working capital. So if tax liability increases, it leads to an increase in the requirement for working capital, as the larger amount of the profit will be used for keeping provision for taxes. Okay, then dividend policy. So dividend is also made out of the profits. So definitely if a company makes a large amount of the profits as a dividend to its shareholders, lesser amount will be available for the purpose of working capital financing. Conversely, if the firm does not pay dividend but retain the profits, out of that profit working capital can be, conversely, if the firm does not pay dividend but retains the profits, availability of working capital will be more with the company, so internally. Hence, the company need not struggle to arrange for working capital from other sources. Okay, so I'll take a break here again to ask for any questions. So I'm going to unmute all. Please maintain silence. And only those students who have a question, please ask. Okay, any questions so far? So I'll just take a quick recap. So we learned what is credit policy. Okay, in two ways: credit given to customers and credit received from the creditors or suppliers of raw materials, and how it influences working capital requirements we learned. Then how growth and expansion, as the company grows and expands its operations, definitely it will require larger amount of working capital. And unpredictability of the availability of raw materials, how it increases the requirement for working capital. Then profit level, so how profit level influences the requirement of working capital, how level of taxes influence the requirement of working capital, as well as the dividend policy, whether to pay the dividend or not to pay the dividend. So how the company, okay, how dividend policy influences requirement of working capital, okay, is understood from this point. So that is the quick recap. So if you have any questions at this stage, please ask. Okay, so there is absolute silence. Then only 3 factors are remaining. Okay, those who are getting the questions at a later stage, you will still get the chance to ask question at the end of the, okay, 3 more factors, that's it. So I'm going to mute you all now. Okay, so the next factor that has influence on working capital requirement is depreciation policy. So depreciation policy also exerts an influence on the amount of working capital required. Depreciation charges do not involve any cash outflow. The effect of depreciation policy on working capital is therefore indirect. So I have considered depreciation even in capital budgeting, if you remember. Okay, so I said depreciation is the non-cash cost. Hence, there is no actual cash outflow. Higher depreciation, that is enhanced rates of depreciation, has a positive impact on working capital. So I repeat, higher depreciation rate has a positive impact on working capital for two reasons. First, lower tax liability and hence more cash profits. So if you remember in capital budgeting, so single proposal, so what we did before tax is charged, we deducted depreciation. Okay, then we charge tax on the revenue. So that way, when there is depreciation, it lowers the tax liability. Higher the depreciation, lower will be the tax liability, and lower the tax liability, more will be cash profits. And the second reason, lower disposable profits, and therefore lower disposable profits and therefore a smaller dividend payment. So they imply more cash with a corporate. So in this way, a higher rate of depreciation, okay, decreases the tax liability and makes more cash profits available with the firm. And the second last determinant, price level changes, how the changes in the prices of raw materials have an influence on the working capital requirement. Basically, changes in the price level of raw materials also affect the requirement of working capital. Rising prices necessitate the use of more funds for maintaining the existing level of activity. For the same level of raw materials, for example, for the same quantity of raw materials or current assets, the company has to pay higher cash outlays are required. So when the prices of the raw materials goes up, for the same quantity of raw materials, a company has to pay more amount. Hence, the requirement of working capital will be larger or higher when the price of raw material increases. So the effect of rising prices is that a higher amount of working capital is needed. So this is simple to understand. And the last determinant of working capital requirement is operating efficiency. Efficiency of operations accelerates the pace of cash cycle. Okay, it means if you recall the operating cycle, 3 phases: converting cash into inventory, converting inventory into receivables, converting receivables into cash. So if the pace or speed of this cash cycle or operating cycle is increased, okay, it improves the working capital turnover, resulting in reduced requirement of working capital. Say for example, if an aeroplane which can be built in 12 months, for example, if it can be built in 9 months, okay, so the amount of working capital required will be lower in this case. Okay, so a company consults various consultancy firms to reduce the duration of the operating cycle. Say for example, if the duration of the operating cycle of a firm is 50 days, just for example, and if the company can bring down the duration of the operating cycle from 50 days to 40 days, okay, the requirement for working capital will be lowered. Okay, so that is what we mean by operating efficiency. So with this, okay, I complete, okay, the chapter working capital management. Okay, so we learned about the nature of working capital, types of working capital, need for working capital, plan for working capital, and determinants of working capital. So I would like to just tell you that there is continued, this PPT is actually continued. So on computation of working capital. So this part of PPT I will discuss when I go for numericals of working capital, that is the problems on working capital, and not now. So for the theory part, the discussion is only till here. Okay, so I'm going to unmute you all again. Okay, so first preference definitely will be to students who have questions. So one by one, please ask your questions, get it clarified. Then we'll conclude in the end. Okay, any
Sir, whether
question?
working capital is a part, whether the working capital is part of the profit of the company.
Yeah, one minute. Yes, please ask.
Whether working capital is a profit part of the profit of the company.
No, no. See, the question is wrong. I'll put it that way. Whether working capital is part of the profit. The question is wrong. Okay. Working capital is, pay attention, please. Again, I hear noise. I hear noise. I hear noise of television, family members.
Sir, guys who don't have no questions, please mute their mics.
Okay. They have to do it on their own. Those students, okay. Who is asking question now? Ashutosh, right?
No, sir, Akshay Pujari.
Akshay Pujari. Other than Akshay Pujari, all students, please mute your audio. I repeat, other than Akshay Pujari, all students, please mute your audio. Okay, now Akshay Pujari's question is whether working capital is part of profit. The question is put in a wrong way. First, let me explain what is working capital. Working capital is the amount. Working capital is the amount required to maintain the day-to-day operations. Working capital is the amount required to carry out the day-to-day operations like purchase of raw materials, production or manufacturing, which is converting raw materials into finished goods, selling the goods to customers. Okay, if the sales is made on credit basis, collecting the payment from the customers. So for all this purpose, whatever money is required, that is working capital. Even payment of the salaries and wages of the employees, payment of the bills of suppliers of raw materials. So for all this purpose, the company will require money. That money is nothing but working capital. And the second part, how a company determines how much working capital is required? Simple way, current assets minus current liabilities. So a company can determine the amount of working capital. Okay, Akshay Pujari?
So for this, we can give example of sales of cylinders, no sir? Selling of cylinders.
For what purpose?
Examples, working capital.
You cannot have like an example of working capital. If you want to know example of working capital, you should know what is the working capital requirement of Tata Motors, for example, Dharwad plant. Okay, that way example can be considered. But since this information will be financial information and companies guard them closely, they are easily not revealed outside.
Okay, sir.
Yes, any other questions? So those who have questions, only those students, unmute your audio and ask questions.
Sir, as you told, like, that the companies which have manufacturing or which produces goods have more working capital.
Require more working capital, yes.
Yes, no, sir. Sir, but like I thought the companies like airway companies. Sir, airway companies also
Yes.
require huge amount of working capital, sir. Because if the flights move or doesn't move, they need to pay all those, sir, like, salaries and rent for those places where they need to keep, aeroplanes, and the taxes which they need to pay for the international flights. So even they need a huge amount of working capital, no, sir.
Okay, see how it is understood. What you are saying is right. Even airline companies, okay, or trains, okay, or for example, bus transport services, they will also require working capital. Okay, but what is understood is a company which is into manufacturing and sale of goods, okay, keeps a physical inventory of raw materials and finished goods, right?
Okay,
and generally these companies sell on credit basis to customers. So that is the reason why a manufacturing company will require larger level of working capital to invest in raw materials and debtors. So whereas in service providing, the airlines, train and bus, there is no inventory first of all. To that extent, working capital required is reduced, right? And second part, there are no debtors. Everything is cash sales. So it is a comparatively we are talking.
Yes.
Okay, good. Next question, please. So you can take a minute or two, but not more, to frame your question and ask. Okay, in the meanwhile, just I'll conclude. If any questions come up, I'll take the questions, don't worry. Yeah, definitely compared to yesterday, today the level of discipline maintained was quite high. Okay, and there was very minimal disturbance. Okay, I took feedback from the class representatives, okay, as well as a couple of students. It worked out very well. And I hope that these video classes are helping you. So try to understand this is the same way how it is taught in class. I pointed, yeah, I referred each bullet point from the PPT. I used a laser pointer, if you remember. Then I explained those points with examples. That was a real class. Same procedure is adopted here, but it is a virtual class. Okay. So that is the first. Second thing, under the present circumstances, online video classes are the only best way to complete your syllabus. Sending PPT, I hope that will not serve the purpose.
Yes.
So students, okay, who are remaining absent, you need to wake up and you need to take it seriously. And due to genuine reasons, if you remain absent, okay, I am uploading all the live classes on YouTube, my channel. Okay, MBA Video Classes India. Okay. So you can go there, watch the video, download the video, and again learn. But you have to learn because the examination will not be cancelled for any UG or PG. I hope you understand that. Like first to 9th standard students. Yes. So you will face exam. So this is a way of learning. And last part, this is the last theory part in corporate finance subject. Remaining all are numericals. And next, I will go ahead with the replacement proposal from chapter number 9, capital budgeting. Okay. So the problem already has circulated in WhatsApp group. If you remember, you need to read the problem and be ready. And the problem will be solved on Word document, MS Word document, which I will use and okay and explain how the problem can be solved. So you are required to arrange for some notebook and pen. If you want to note down, you can note down if time permits. But definitely you will not have a huge amount of time as in class. If you are unable to note down, no problem. Anyway, I will upload the video into YouTube. So I can watch it again and again and note down, make your notes. So this way will be the next classes. I'll announce when the next class will be. It will be on capital budgeting, chapter number 9, unit 2 on replacement proposal. Numerical it will be. Okay. So we'll conclude after the meeting. I will take feedback from again 1 or 2 students. Okay, preferably from CRs and a couple of students more. Thank you very much for all your patience. So I'm ending the meeting now. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Have a great evening, sir.
Yeah, pleasant evening one and all.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.